The message came on a Tuesday. Susan Miller was the first human to see it. She sat alone in the communication room of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station. The screen in front of her flashed red. This had never happened before. Susan leaned forward, her heart beating faster. The message was not in any human language. It was a series of complex patterns that somehow made sense to her mind. Later, she would learn that the aliens had designed it to be understood by any intelligent species. "We are the Corvins," the message said. "Your planet has resources we need. Surrender, and some of you may live as our servants. Resist, and all of you will die. You have 30 days to decide." Susan's hands shook as she reached for the emergency protocol button. Within minutes, the station's alert system had awakened the other 5 crew members. They gathered around her console, faces pale in the blue light of the screen. "Are you sure it's real?" asked John Green, the station commander. His voice was steady, but Susan saw fear in his eyes. "The signal came from beyond Neptune," Susan said. "No human ship is out that far, and no human could fake these transmission patterns. This is not from Earth." The oldest member of the crew, Dr. Peter White, sat down heavily. "After all our searching for alien life, this is how first contact happens, with a threat. We need to tell Earth right away," said Mary Clark, already moving toward the main communication system. "Wait," John said. "We need to think about this. Sending this message to Earth will cause panic. Millions could die in the chaos before the aliens even get here." Susan looked at each person in the room. "If we don't warn Earth now, billions could die when the aliens arrive. We have no choice." The next hours passed in a blur. They sent the message to Earth's unified government. At first, many leaders thought it was a joke or a mistake. But when the world's best scientists confirmed the signal came from a massive object moving toward Earth, everything changed. Susan watched on the station's screens as the news spread across the planet. Some people ran to churches and temples. Others cleaned out stores and hid in their homes. In some cities, people fought in the streets. But in most places, something unexpected happened. People came together. Old enemies put aside their fights. Countries that had been at war for generations now shared resources and information. Earth's best minds focused on one question: how to survive. 20 days after the message, Susan and her crew were called back to Earth. They landed in North America at the new Global Defense Headquarters. The facility was huge, built deep underground in the Rocky Mountains. It had not existed 3 weeks earlier. General Frank Adams met them at the entrance. "You're the ones who received the first message," he said. It wasn't a question. "The President wants to meet you." They followed him through long tunnels filled with people working at computers, building strange machines or studying diagrams of weapons Susan had never seen before. Everyone moved with urgent purpose. The President waited in a simple room with a round table. World leaders from 7 major nations sat with her. They looked tired but determined. "The crew of Station 5, the President said, standing to greet them. "Thank you for your service. You gave us warning we desperately needed." Susan noticed large screens around the room showing images of space. One showed a cluster of small dots moving away from Earth. "Our response ships," explained General Adams, following her gaze. "Not to fight. We know we can't win a direct battle. Yet, these are carrying messages. And watching." The President nodded. "We've sent ships to meet the Corvin fleet before they reach our solar system. They carry offers of trade, cultural exchange, anything but surrender. If the Corvins are open to discussion, we'll know soon." "And if they're not?" asked Mary Clark. One of the other world leaders, a woman Susan recognized as the Prime Minister of the African Alliance, answered, "Then we fight. Not because we want to, but because we must." General Adams led them to another part of the facility. Here, they saw something that made Susan's breath catch. Huge ships were being built underground, not like the small research vessels humans had used to explore their solar system. These were warships. "How is this possible?" Peter asked. "These would take years to build. 3 weeks ago, half the factories on Earth changed what they make," Adams said. "Every space agency combined their knowledge. We've accomplished in days what would have taken decades before. Will it be enough? Susan asked. The general's face was grim. Probably not. But we've learned something important about humans in these past weeks. When truly threatened, we are capable of incredible things. Later that evening, Susan stood alone on an observation platform, looking at the stars. The same stars she had watched for years, searching for signs of life. Now she knew life was out there and it was coming to destroy everything she loved. She heard footsteps and turned to see a young engineer named Eric Walsh approaching. He had been showing them the new defense systems earlier. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Susan shook her head. "I keep thinking about what happens next. What will become if we have to fight this war?" Eric was quiet for a moment. "My grandfather fought in the last World War," he finally said. "He told me once that the hardest part wasn't the fighting or the dying. It was seeing good people do terrible things because they had no choice. He said war doesn't just take lives. It takes humanity." "Then why are you helping build these weapons?" Susan asked. "Because the alternative is extinction," Eric said simply. "And because I believe we can remember who we are even in the darkest times." He pointed up at the stars. "Those aliens out there, they think they know what humans are. They see a primitive species they can easily conquer. They don't understand what they've done." "What have they done?" Susan asked. "They've united us," Eric said. "For the first time in our history, every human on Earth is working toward the same goal. And they've awakened something ancient in us, something that helped us survive when we were still living in caves, surrounded by predators." The next morning, Susan was assigned to the command team for Earth's new defense fleet. As she put on her uniform, she heard an announcement over the facility's speakers. The Corvin fleet had destroyed all 5 of Earth's messenger ships without responding to any communication attempts. The war had begun, and with it, humanity's greatest test. Not just of their technology or their courage, but of their very souls. After all, they feared war not for what it would bring, but for what it would turn them into. 3 months had passed since the first Corvin message. Susan Miller now wore the uniform of an Earth Defense Fleet commander. She stood on the bridge of the largest human warship ever built, the EDF Guardian. Through the main window, she watched smaller ships practice battle formations in Earth orbit. "Fleet status report," Susan said to her second-in-command, Sam Baker. Sam handed her a tablet. "We have 27 ships ready for combat. 6 more will be ready next week. Weapons testing is complete on all but 3 vessels." Susan nodded. Earth had built in months what should have taken decades. Every day, factories around the world produced new parts. Scientists worked without sleep to improve shields and weapons. Children studied alien language patterns instead of normal school subjects. "The Corvins will reach Mars orbit in 4 days, Sam reminded her. "General Adams wants all ships at the Jupiter defense line by tomorrow." Susan looked around the bridge at her crew. Most had been civilians just months ago. Now they operated complex weapon systems and navigation equipment with practiced skill. The change worried her sometimes. How quickly humans adapted to war. Later that day, Susan attended a meeting with Earth's Defense Council. The room was deep underground, safe from any attack. Large screens showed the solar system and the approaching Corvin fleet. "Their ships have slowed," General Adams said, pointing to red dots near Jupiter. "We don't know why." "Could they be afraid?" asked one council member. "Perhaps our preparations surprised them." Dr. Peter White, who now led the alien research team, shook his head. "The Corvins aren't afraid. Based on their communications, they're curious. They didn't expect us to build a defense fleet so quickly. They're studying us." The council leader, a stern woman named Grace Hill, stood up. "Then we should give them something to study. Commander Miller, your fleet will engage the Corvin advance ships near Europa. Not to win, we know we can't win yet, but to gather information. We need to understand their weapons and tactics." Susan felt cold inside. "Many of my people will die." "Yes," Grace said simply. "But if we do nothing, all of humanity will die. We need this information." Susan left the meeting with heavy steps. In the hallway, she met Eric Walsh, the young engineer who had become her friend. He now led a team developing new shield technology. "You look troubled," he said. "I just received orders to lead my fleet into battle," Susan said. "A battle we can't win." Eric was quiet for a moment. "Come with me. I want to show you something." He led her to his lab where dozens of engineers worked on different projects. In the center stood a strange device. It looked like a metal sphere with blue light pulsing inside. "What is it?" Susan asked. "We call it the Hope Engine," Eric said. "It creates a field that can block Corvin energy weapons, at least it should. We've only tested it on small scales." "And on large scales?" Eric looked away. "We don't know. It might work for a few minutes or not at all. The mathematics suggest it could protect an entire ship, but you need real battle conditions to know for sure," Susan finished for him. "Yes. We need data from an actual Corvin attack." Eric touched the device gently. "Susan, I'm asking to join your mission, to install this on the Guardian and monitor it during battle." Susan stared at him. "It's a suicide mission, Eric." "Probably," he agreed. "But if it works, even briefly, the data could help us build better defenses. It could save Earth." 2 days later, the Guardian led a fleet of 12 ships toward Jupiter. Susan stood on the bridge, watching the tiny dot of Europa grow larger. On the main screen, somewhere beyond it, Corvin ships waited. Eric and his team had worked day and night to install the Hope Engine on the Guardian. Now it sat in the center of the ship, humming softly. No one knew if it would save them or fail completely. "Corvin ships detected," reported Lisa Green, the sensor officer. Her voice was steady despite her youth. She had just turned 20. 8 vessels approaching from Europa's shadow. "All ships, battle formation Delta," Susan ordered. Her mouth felt dry. This was humanity's first space battle. No simulations or training could truly prepare them. The first Corvin energy blast came without warning. It hit one of the smaller Earth ships, cutting it in half. 60 people died instantly. "Return fire," Susan ordered. Her ships launched missiles and energy weapons. Most bounced harmlessly off Corvin shields. Another Earth ship exploded, then another. The Guardian shook as Corvin weapons struck its hull. "Shield, failure in sections 3 through 7, reported Sam Baker. "Hull breach on deck 12. "The Hope Engine?" Susan asked Eric, who stood at a console near the back of the bridge. "Power levels rising," he said. "But not fast enough. We need..." A massive blast hit the Guardian directly. The lights flickered. People screamed as part of the ceiling collapsed. "Direct hit to the main reactor," Sam shouted over the alarms. "Power failing." Susan made a quick decision. "Divert all remaining power to the Hope Engine, everything we have." "But that will leave us defenseless," Sam argued. "We're already defenseless," Susan said. "This is our only chance." As power flowed into Eric's device, the blue light inside it grew brighter. The sphere began to spin, faster and faster. The next Corvin blast hit them dead center. Everyone on the bridge closed their eyes, expecting death, but death didn't come. Instead, a blue field spread from the Hope Engine, surrounding the Guardian. The Corvin energy weapons couldn't penetrate it. "It's working," Eric shouted, his face lit by the blue glow. "We're collecting valuable data on their weapon patterns." Susan allowed herself one moment of hope. Then reality returned. "We've lost 8 ships," Sam reported grimly. "The other 3 are badly damaged. And our main reactor is still failing. We have minutes, not hours." Susan opened a channel to the remaining ships. "This is Commander Miller. All vessels, begin retreat to Earth. The Guardian will cover your withdrawal." "But Susan," Eric protested, "you can't..." "The Hope Engine buys us time, not victory," Susan said. "Our mission was to gather information. We've done that. Now we need to get it back to Earth." As the surviving Earth ships turned and fled, the Guardian faced the Corvin fleet alone. The blue shield held against repeated attacks, but the ship's power continued to drop. Transfer all data from the Hope engine to the emergency beacon, Susan ordered. Make sure Earth gets everything we've learned here. In the final moments, as the Guardian systems failed one by one, Susan looked at her crew. They weren't afraid anymore. They were proud. They had accomplished their mission. The knowledge they gained today might someday save humanity. The Hope engine flickered and died as the last power cell emptied. The blue shield vanished. Susan stood tall as the Corvin weapons took aim at her ship. We may lose this battle, she said quietly, but humans will win this war. The Guardian exploded in a flash of light that could be seen all the way from Earth. Earth mourned the Guardian and its brave crew. For 2 days, news screens showed the same images: the bright flash near Jupiter, the last transmission from Commander Susan Miller, and the 3 damaged ships that limped home with precious information. But Earth did not have time for long grief. The Corvin fleet continued its approach. In the underground command center, General Adams studied the data from the Guardian's final mission. Next to him stood Eric's assistant, Liz Flynn, now in charge of the Hope engine project after her mentor's death. The Guardian bought us something vital, she explained, pointing to complex patterns on her screen. We now understand how Corvin weapons work, and we know the Hope engine concept is valid. Can you build a better version? General Adams asked. We already are, Liz said. Using what we learned, we're installing improved engines on all remaining ships, and we've found something else. She swiped to a new image. The Corvins have a weak spot in their ship design, here, where their energy systems connect to their weapons. For the first time in months, the general smiled slightly. So they can be hurt. Yes. But we still can't match their power. We need something more. That something more came from an unexpected place. Dr. Peter White called an emergency meeting the next day. The old scientist looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, but his eyes were bright with excitement. We've finally decoded enough of the Corvin language to understand their communications during the battle, he announced to the council. And we've learned something important. The Corvins aren't just fighting us for resources. They're afraid of us. Afraid? Grace Hill looked skeptical. Their technology is far beyond ours. Their technology, yes, Peter agreed. But there's something about humans that terrifies them. Our adaptability, the speed at which we learn and change. In just months, we built ships that could challenge them even briefly. No species they've encountered before has ever done that. How does this help us? Asked General Adams. Because fear makes people do stupid things, Peter said. The same is true for the Corvins. They're rushing their attack because they're afraid of what we might become if they give us more time. A new plan formed. Earth would not try to win this war with pure strength. They would use the Corvin fear against them. Days later, the main Earth fleet waited in orbit around the moon. 50 ships, each now equipped with an improved Hope engine. Leading them was the EDF Avenger, commanded by Sam Baker, Susan Miller's former second-in-command. Standing beside him on the bridge was Liz Flynn, monitoring the Hope engine. And in a special room behind the bridge sat Dr. Peter White with a team of language experts ready to broadcast messages in the Corvin language. The Corvin fleet has passed Mars orbit, reported the sensor officer. 300 ships as expected. Sam Baker's face showed no emotion. He had lost many friends on the Guardian. Begin Operation Phantom. Across the Earth fleet, Hope engines activated. But instead of creating defensive shields, they projected energy outward in patterns designed to look like hundreds of additional Earth ships appearing suddenly from behind the moon. At the same time, Peter's team broadcast a message toward the Corvin fleet. You were right to fear us. Our main fleet returns from the outer system. Surrender now. The message was a lie. There was no second human fleet. But the Corvins didn't know that. On the main screen, Sam watched as confusion spread through the Corvin formation. Some ships turned to face the Phantom fleet. Others continued toward Earth. Their neat formation broke apart. Phase 2, Sam ordered. Earth's real ships, hidden until now, attacked the separated Corvin vessels. They targeted the weak spots Liz had identified, using weapons modified based on the Guardian's data. 10 Corvin ships exploded in the first minute. The others tried to regroup, but the Phantom Fleet images made it hard for them to know where to turn. "It's working," Liz said, surprised by their success. But the advantage didn't last long. The Corvins soon realized the Phantom ships weren't real. Their fleet reformed, stronger than before, and advanced toward Earth. "Hope engines to defensive mode," Sam ordered as Corvin weapons fired at his ships. The blue shields appeared around the Earth fleet, blocking the first wave of attacks. But the Corvins adjusted quickly. They changed their weapon frequencies, searching for ways through the shields. One by one, Earth ships began to fall. In the command center on Earth, General Adams watched the battle with growing despair. "We've hurt them, but not enough. They're still coming." Grace Hill nodded grimly. "Then it's time for the last option." She pressed a button on the table. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a red key. "The Doomsday weapon isn't ready," the general protested. "The side effects could—" "We have no choice," Grace cut him off. "If the Corvins reach Earth, humanity ends. At least this way, some of us might survive." High above Earth, the battle continued. The Avenger shook as Corvin weapons broke through its weakening shields. "Hope engine failing," Liz reported, trying to stabilize the system. "Power reserves at 20%. Sam looked at the tactical display. 30 Earth ships destroyed, the rest damaged. Against this, they had managed to destroy maybe 50 Corvin vessels. Not nearly enough. "All ships, fall back to Earth orbit," he ordered. "Protect the planet as long as you can." As the Earth fleet retreated, Sam noticed something strange. A massive energy reading from the planet below. Something was happening at the North Pole. Suddenly, his communication officer turned with a shocked expression. "Sir, we're receiving orders to move the fleet to the far side of the moon immediately. Earth Defense Command is activating something called Project Darkness." Sam hesitated only briefly. "All ships emergency thrust to lunar orbit." As the battered Earth fleet raced toward safety, a new signal broadcast from Earth directly to the Corvin fleet. Dr. Peter White had written it, using everything they had learned about the alien language and psychology. "You feared what we might become," the message said. "You were right. This is what humans do when cornered. We sacrifice everything to survive." From the North Pole of Earth, a beam of intense energy shot upward. Not toward the Corvin ships, but toward the sun. When it hit, a small dark spot appeared on the solar surface. The spot grew rapidly. Within minutes, the sun dimmed noticeably. "What have they done?" whispered Liz, watching from the Avengers bridge as they rounded the moon to safety. The answer came moments later. The dark spot on the sun collapsed inward, then exploded outward, in a massive solar flare. A wall of energy rushed toward Earth and the Corvin fleet. The Earth fleet, sheltered behind the moon, felt only the edges of the blast. But the Corvin ships took the full force. Their shields failed. Their hulls melted. In seconds, the mighty alien armada was reduced to drifting debris. But Earth paid a terrible price. The atmosphere burned, oceans boiled, billions died instantly. Yet deep underground, in hardened shelters built during the months of preparation, millions of humans survived. They would emerge later to a changed world. A wounded world. They had won the war. But as Sam Baker stared at the devastated Earth through the Avengers' viewport, he wondered what humanity had become to achieve that victory, and he feared the answer. 5 years passed since Earth used the terrible weapon against the Corvins. The planet was different now. Much of the surface remained too hot or radioactive for humans to live. The skies stayed dark with dust and smoke. Plants grew poorly in the changed soil, but humans survived. They lived in underground cities and in domes built on the surface. They used machines to clean the air and water. They grew food in special rooms with artificial light. Sam Baker, once commander of the EDF Avenger, now led the Earth Recovery Council. Today he walked through New Haven, the largest dome city, built where Chicago once stood. Children played, in a small park with real grass and trees, precious things in this new world. "Commander Baker." A young woman hurried toward him. He recognized Liz Flynn, now head of the science division. She looked worried. "What's wrong?" Sam asked. Liz rarely left her labs these days. "Our deep space monitors detected something," she said. "Multiple objects entering the solar system. The pattern matches Corvin ships." Sam felt cold fear. "That's impossible. We destroyed their fleet." "Their main fleet," Liz corrected. "But the Corvins control many star systems. This could be reinforcements coming to find out what happened to the first attack." Sam followed her to the command center beneath New Haven. The room was smaller than the one they had during the war, but filled with newer technology. On the main screen, tiny dots moved slowly toward Earth. 15 ships, said Jane Wells, the sensor operator. "Still beyond Neptune's orbit, but heading straight for us." "How long do we have?" Sam asked. 2 months at their current speed, Liz said. "We're tracking them carefully." Sam stared at the screen. "What are our defenses?" The answer was not good. Earth had just 5 working ships left from the original fleet. The Hope engines still functioned, but needed rare materials that were hard to find on the damaged planet. And Project Darkness, the weapon that had saved them, had been a one-time option. Using it again would likely kill the sun and everyone in the solar system. "We should evacuate people to the Mars colony," suggested Council member Rick Foster. "At least some humans would survive if Earth falls." The Mars colony was small, built during the war as a backup plan. Only 10,000 people could live there, in tunnels beneath the red planet's surface. "We can't give up Earth," Sam said firmly. "Not after everything we've sacrificed to save it." That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He walked alone through the quiet dome as most people rested. Near the edge, where the clear walls showed the dead landscape outside, he found Dr. Peter White. The old scientist looked much older now, his hair completely white, his back bent. He stared out at the ruined world. "Heard about the Corvin ships," Peter said without turning. "Have you decided what to do?" "Not yet," Sam admitted. "We can fight, but I don't think we can win. Not in our current state." Peter nodded slowly. "During the war, we became something different, something hard and fierce. It saved us, but at a terrible cost." He finally looked at Sam. "Now we must decide if we'll become something else again." "What do you mean?" "I've been studying the Corvin language and culture for years now," Peter explained. "From everything we learned during the war. They're not evil, Sam. They're just different. They value order and stability above all else. Our unpredictability terrifies them." Sam frowned. "They tried to destroy us." "Yes, because they saw us as a threat, just as we saw them." Peter handed Sam a small device. "I've prepared a message, a different kind of message this time." The next day, the council gathered to decide Earth's response to the approaching Corvins. Military leaders wanted to attack immediately, using their 5 ships to ambush the aliens near Jupiter. Others suggested hiding, shutting down all power on Earth and hoping the Corvins would think the planet dead. When everyone had spoken, Sam stood up. "We've spent 5 years rebuilding what we could of our world, fighting among the ruins, and in that time I've often wondered, what did we become to win the war? And what must we become now to survive?" He activated a screen showing the devastated Earth from orbit. "We cannot win another war, not like the last one. We barely survived that victory." "So we surrender?" asked General Ryan, his face angry. "After all our sacrifices?" "No," Sam said. "We try something we haven't tried before." He held up Peter's device. "We talked to them." The room erupted in arguments. Some called it treason. Others said it was suicide. But in the end, the vote narrowly approved Sam's plan. The next day, Earth sent a message toward the approaching Corvin ships. Not a threat or a show of force, but an invitation. The message, written by Dr. Peter White in the Corvin language, acknowledged the harm both sides had done. It explained how Earth had nearly destroyed itself to win. It asked for a different path. For weeks, there was no response. The Corvin ships continued their approach, now passing Neptune. Earth prepared for the worst, readying their few defenses. Then, one day, a signal came. The Corvin fleet had stopped moving. A message arrived, short but clear. We will listen. 2. More weeks passed. Finally, a single Corvin ship separated from the others and approached Earth alone. The rest stayed far away near Jupiter's orbit. Sam Baker, Liz Flynn, and Dr. Peter White waited in a small building constructed quickly on Earth's surface, far from any dome city. They wore protective suits against the still dangerous atmosphere. Through the windows, they watched the alien ship land carefully on the burned ground. A door opened in the ship's side. 3 Corvins emerged. They looked strange to human eyes, tall with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with their movements. They too wore protective gear, designed for Earth's oxygen atmosphere, which was poison to them. The leader stepped forward, made a complex gesture with its upper arms, and spoke. The translation device Peter had built converted the sounds to English. We came seeking vengeance for our destroyed fleet, the Corvin said. But your message made us pause. Never before has any species survived our war fleets, let alone destroyed one. Yet instead of pride, you speak of regret. This is unexpected. Sam stepped forward. We did what we had to do to survive, but the cost was almost too high to bear. We don't want to repeat that mistake. The Corvin's skin shifted to a deep blue color. We too have lost much in wars across the stars. Perhaps there is another way for our species to interact. That day, under the dark skies of a wounded Earth, humans and Corvins began to talk rather than fight. It was difficult. Centuries of Corvin expansion had never included peaceful contact with other intelligent life, and humans still remembered the billions who had died. But as the long meeting ended, the Corvin leader made an offer that stunned the humans. Their science could help heal Earth's damaged environment. In exchange, they wanted to learn how humans adapted so quickly, a skill their own species lacked. As the Corvins returned to their ship, promising to come back with a larger delegation and environmental restoration equipment, Sam turned to Peter White. Do you think this can work? After everything that's happened? The old scientist watched the alien ship rise into the dark sky. I don't know, but today we chose to become something new, not just survivors or warriors, but perhaps builders and healers. He smiled slightly. And that, I think, is what makes us human after all. 10 years had passed since the first peaceful meeting between humans and Corvins. Earth was healing slowly. The skies were lighter now, sometimes showing patches of blue. New plants grew in the cleaned soil. Small animals returned to forests that were carefully replanted. Sam Baker walked through an open field outside New Haven. He no longer needed a protective suit to breathe the air. Beside him walked Kral, the Corvin leader who had first agreed to talk instead of fight. Over the years, they had become something like friends, though understanding each other remained difficult. Your world changes quickly, Kral said, skin shifting to a green-gold color that humans had learned meant approval. Faster than we expected. We've had good help, Sam admitted, looking at the Corvin environmental machines humming quietly in the distance. The alien technology removed radiation and toxic chemicals from the ground faster than anything humans could build. Kral made a gesture that meant thoughtfulness. Yet many of your people still do not trust us. They remember the war. Can you blame them? Sam asked. Billions died. No. Kral's skin darkened. My people also struggle to accept this new path. War has been our way for thousands of years. Peace is yet unfamiliar. They reached the top of a small hill. Below them spread the New Earth Corvin Research Center, where scientists from both species worked together. The large building had 2 different environments inside. One section filled with Earth's oxygen atmosphere, another with the methane mix that Corvins breathed. In the center, a special room allowed them to meet with protective barriers. The council meets today to vote on the Jupiter project, Sam said. Many still oppose it. Kral's skin rippled with blue patterns. Understandable. Trust builds slowly. The Jupiter project was the most ambitious plan yet. Corvins had proposed building a joint colony on Jupiter's moon Europa. where both species could live and work together. It would be the first place in the solar system deliberately designed for both humans and Corvins. Later that day, Sam sat in the council chamber beneath New Haven. The room was divided. On one side sat human leaders from the various dome cities and underground settlements. On the other side, Corvin representatives connected through special screens that allowed them to participate from their ships. Liz Flynn presented the technical details of the Europa colony. Over the years, she had learned to speak basic Corvin, one of the few humans able to do so without translation devices. Her work creating technologies both species could use had earned respect from everyone. When she finished, the debate began. Some humans argued passionately against the plan. "We cannot forget what they did," said General Ryan, now old but still influential. "This could be a trap to gain access to our remaining resources." Others pointed out the benefits of working more closely with Corvin technology. "Their environmental systems could restore Earth completely in half the time if we collaborate fully," said Jane Wells. The Corvins had their own disagreements. Some believed humans were still too unpredictable and dangerous. Others saw potential in human creativity that could benefit their own civilization. Dr. Peter White, now very old and frail, asked to speak. The room quieted as he was helped to the center. "I am the only person here who was present when we received the first Corvin message," he said in a weak voice. "I watched us transform from peaceful explorers to desperate warriors in months. I helped create the weapons that nearly destroyed our world to save our species." He looked around the room slowly. "And then I watched us choose a different path when given a second chance. Over these 10 years, I've studied both our histories. Humans and Corvins started in similar ways, as survivors fighting to live on our home planets. Both of us reached for the stars with hope, but also with fear." Peter turned to face the Corvin screens. "Your people chose order and control to survive. You built an empire across many stars, never finding equals until you met us. Our unpredictability frightened you because it threatened everything you built." Then he turned to the human side. "And we chose adaptability and innovation, changing constantly to overcome each challenge. We were so busy changing that we never built something lasting until we had to fight for our survival." He took a deep breath, seeming to gather his remaining strength. "But now together, we have a chance to become something new. Not just survivors or conquerors or victims. Together, we might build something that lasts and also grows. Something neither of us could create alone." When Peter finished speaking, the room was silent. Then Sam Baker stood up and called for the vote. The Jupiter project passed, though not by much. 1 year later, Sam stood with Kral in the newly completed observation dome on Europa. Through the clear walls, they could see Jupiter's massive form filling half the sky, its swirling storms creating patterns of red and orange and white. Below them, humans and Corvins worked together, building the colony that would house thousands from both species. "My ancestor 7 generations back was a war leader," Kral said suddenly. "His writings speak of conquering weaker species across 12 star systems. He would not understand what I do now." "My grandmother was a doctor before the war," Sam replied. "She spent her life saving people. Then she helped design weapons to kill Corvins. She died during the final battle, never knowing if humanity would survive." They were quiet for a moment, watching a team of human and Corvin engineers testing a new type of habitat. "What do you think she would say about this?" Kral asked, gesturing at the colony. Sam thought about it. "I think she would say this is why we fought, not just to survive, but to have the chance to become something better than we were." A young human girl ran into the observation dome, followed by a small Corvin. Both stopped when they saw the leaders. "Sorry," the girl said. "We're playing Explore and Map." She looked at the Corvin child without fear or hesitation, then back at the adults. "Can we stay and watch Jupiter for a while?" Sam smiled and nodded. The children moved to the window, the human pointing out storm patterns to her friend. As Sam watched them, he realized something important. These children had never known war between their species. To them, working together was natural. They would build things neither humans nor Corvins had imagined before. We feared war not for what it would bring, Sam said quietly, remembering words from long ago, but for what it would turn us into. Krell's skin shifted to a new color, one Sam had never seen before. Perhaps what matters most is what we choose to become after the war ends. Outside the dome, Earth shone as a distant blue point of light in the black sky, still wounded, still healing, but alive with possibility.